All right, I'm Dr. Craig. I'm the creator of BarkingDogs.net, and I'm here today representing the Barking Dogs Coalition. The production you are watching now is the first in a sequenced series of videos we've made about the barking laws. Now, in this particular video, we're going to introduce you to what I call the multiple household law, which is the barking law that is probably in effect where you live. However, if you would like to jump over to any of our other videos about the barking laws, just go to the description section below where you'll find annotated links to all of our barking law videos. Or just click on the link now appearing on your screen. Okay, so here we go. The people in the media, along with our government officials who really should know better, tend to portray noise as being nothing more than a minor nuisance. Like it's just an annoyance that's not worth worrying about. But decades of research have given the lie to that perspective. So if you think that whether or not we have an effective barking law in place is small potatoes, then you really need to reassess your position. Because despite its reputation as a minor irritant, research has shown noise to be a debilitating and potentially lethal toxin. Hence, forcibly projecting noise, like the sound of a barking dog, into someone's home in chronic fashion has the potential to disrupt their autonomic and endocrine functions severely enough to catapult the entire family into a state of frequent agitation and near constant distress, thereby setting in motion a predictable process of physical, mental, and emotional deterioration, accompanied by functional impairment and the severe disruption of interpersonal relationships. In other words, when noise is force-fed into your home, it can fuck you up real bad, and it can even kill you if it continues on through the years. If you doubt that, then you need to watch our videos on systemic noise trauma. And while you're at it, check out our videos on barking dogs and sleep deprivation, where you'll learn that it's common for people to suffer through tens of thousands of hours of lost sleep because of their neighbor's barking dog. If you doubt that number, then be sure to watch our video on barking-generated sleep deprivation, where we do the math that will show you that that number is not at all exaggerated. So here's the thing. If your town does not have a readily enforceable barking law in place, and it doesn't, your entire life can be swept away by that barking dog next door. If you doubt it, then try to get by on 2 or 3 hours of sleep every night for a year or two and see how it affects you. Give it a try and you'll see what a little bit of time it takes for the exhaustion to render you altogether dysfunctional, and how quickly you lose the house and your spouse and your sanity after your exhaustion-generated dysfunction costs you your job. So if you really think that whether or not we have an effective, quickly enforceable barking law in place is not a matter of great importance, then you need to think again. Only this time, factor the facts into your thinking. Sadly, we really only have 2 types of barking laws here in the United States, and probably throughout the world, and both of them are unenforceable. The less common of the 2 types of barking laws is something I call the consecutive disruption law. We're going to cover that a bit further along in the 4th video in this series, but I want to start by talking about the multiple household law, because that's the most common type of barking law that we have here in the United States. And it's probably the law of the land where you live. Now, you may notice that sometimes I call it the multiple household law, singular, and sometimes I call it the multiple household laws, plural. That's because there are some multiple household laws that differ slightly from the others, but basically they're all the same thing with only slight variations to set them apart. Now, in the next video in this series, I'm going to start reading through and discussing the multiple household law, so you can see for yourself what you're up against with that thing. But before I get to that, I want to tell you a little story about one of my early adventures with that law, because that will help you understand how the multiple household law works. And when I say how it works, I mean why it doesn't work. So a while back, I had a neighbor with alcohol in his bloodstream, deficits in his personality, a handgun in the hallway, and a barking dog in his yard. Now, if you're watching barking dog videos, then I imagine you already know the drill. The dog barks. The barking is endless, but my patience is not. I'm going insane. My last nerve is shot. I'm well on my way to being barked to death, and my drunk neighbor tells me to go fuck myself. So I called the Humane Society of Sonoma County, which at the time handled barking dog complaints for the city of Santa Rosa, which is where I was living back then in Northern California. I talked to a woman there who told me there was nothing animal control could do unless I first submitted letters of complaint written by people from at least 3 separate neighboring households. Now, I remember wondering at the time if she was deliberately blowing smoke up my ass or if she had just not thought this thing through. Either way, I knew it was bullshit because I'd been around the block, and I knew it was more than just letters she was talking about. I knew that before animal control would even pretend that there was any possibility that they might take action, I'd first have to get my other neighbors to commit to doing a lot of things they would never agree to do. So I said, look, the neighbors are not going to write any letters. And they're not going to do any of that other stuff that you people insist on. What do you need letters for anyway? And why do the other neighbors have to be involved in this at all? Is it not enough that my life is being destroyed by the incessant noise? So she tells me, well, we have to have letters and full participation from all the neighbors because we need proof that the dog is actually barking. For all we know, you could be a vindictive neighbor filing a false report. Yeah, but see, the dog was barking as we spoke. So I asked her if she could hear it over the phone. She allowed that she could, but she asked, how do I know that it's your neighbor's dog that I hear barking? Well, why not come out here and take a look, I said. The dog's never quiet for more than 2 minutes at a time. In fact, he barks at everything he sees. All you have to do is, walk by on the sidewalk, and he'll bark at you. Why not just send someone out here to take a look? But she told me that their budget would not allow for that level of service. But then when I offered to pay for it, she told me they weren't set up to receive money from me for a thing like that. So they don't have the money they would need to check out a complaint. And you're not allowed to give them the money. And if you offer to pay an animal control officer out of your own pocket to come out after work on his own time to witness the barking, you'll quickly discover that's against their policy too. I know because I tried that as well. So then I asked about a film. How about if I bring you a video of the dog standing in the yard barking with the address clearly visible in the background? I'm sorry, she said. We're going to need letters from the neighbors. So apparently, animal control is not in the business of bearing witness or allowing anybody else to bear witness for that matter. They can't just come out to look and see if the dog is barking. And they can't establish a mechanism that would allow you to give them the money so they could afford to do that. And they can't establish a policy that would allow you to personally pay an animal control officer to come out on his own time. and they can't find the time to take a look at a video that would prove conclusively that the dog is indeed barking problematically. Now, you don't have to be the king of perceptive acumen to see that if they were as good at quieting their dogs as they are dreaming up excuses for why they can't ever seem to do anything to quiet any dogs under any circumstance, then they'd be the masters of their domain. Okay, then, I asked her, if animal control can't come out here to attest to the infraction, then how about if I hire an off-duty police officer to come out and serve as a witness? Get a cop out here for a quick report so we can move toward a speedy resolution. Well, I'm sorry, she said. A cop's verbal assurance is not going to do it. We're going to need written testimony from people from at least 3 separate neighboring households. So I pointed out that a person can go to jail for life, on no more than the word of a police officer. Are you telling me we can't trust the word of a cop as to whether or not a dog is barking? Well, I'm sorry. Well, then how about if I hire 2 off-duty police officers to come out here and verify that the dog is barking? And she told me they couldn't accept that as proof either. I pointed out that you can have a human being legally put to death for capital murder on less evidence than that. Well, I'm sorry, she said, doing the broken record thing on me. Well, then, how about if I hire a member of the city council to come out here? How about if I bring out every member of the city council, the mayor, my clergyman, and the chief of police? Would that be enough evidence that this dog is barking? Well, I'm sorry, she said. We need letters from the neighbors. Like pretty much every place else, in Santa Rosa, California, where I was living at the time, your neighbor's dog may be standing under your bedroom window barking nonstop 24 hours a day. Hell, there could be 8 of them out there barking relentlessly. But the way they have the deck stacked against the victim, even though the dogs are almost never quiet, there's still no way you can get it stopped by turning to the law. In fact, the barking laws are so heavily weighted in favor of the dog owner and against the barking victim that even if the noise is relentless, there is still no way you can prove to animal control satisfaction that the thing that never stops has ever happened. They could just send someone out to confirm that the dog is barking and take steps to bring it to an end. But they won't do that. They're never going to do that. The fact is, the Department of Animal Control is never, ever going to do anything to quiet your neighbor's dog. Not now and not ever. And the multiple household law is the cover that lets them get away with it. It provides them with the documented justification they need for refusing to do anything to help you. And it also provides them with an excuse for leaving you high and dry, along with a rationale that allows them to blame their failure to help you on you. All right, in a few seconds, a link will appear on your screen. Just click on that, and it will take you to the next video in our sequenced series about the barking laws, where we'll read through that piss-poor, pathetic piece of legislation we call the multiple household law. All right, watch for that link. It'll be coming up any time now.